Hey, Hadley here from New Zealand Property Buyers. Hope this video finds you well. So today what I wanted to talk to you guys about was this common misconception that we've got at the moment around social housing and people's perception that as soon as I talk about that, or anyone for that matter decides to start talking about this, is the one thing we're talking about is the government taking over your house, dictating what you're going to do, and you having no say in that at all. So the three things from this are there's three different types of leases and agreements, or three different types of housing, shall we say, that are in New Zealand. So there's leases that we have with Kāinga Ora, and they tend to be for 10 years in length. Or 5 to 10 years in length. So they're long-term leases, they look after the maintenance, they do what they need to do. Your control is very limited around that time. And also, too, in terms of rent increases, you factor them in at the start of the lease. So regardless of what the rent does over that period of time, you've factored in the CPI controls over that period. There's also community housing providers. So these are iwi-type groups, government-funded, but are run by local providers. So this isn't government that holds onto your house. This is a local, tend to be iwi trusts that are locally run in the different areas. They also tend to have longer contracts with their landlords that they work with. And then the third one, which is what we tend to specialise in, is the emergency and transitional housing sector. So this, which is very similar to the community housing, where we have shorter term contracts. So our contracts range from 12 months to 3 years. So the 12-month contracts, you get in today and then you get out in 12 months' time, and you've got the option to renew that lease or not. You set the rent at this year's rent. You get to the end of the 12 months, and depending on lease, generally speaking, the rents can't go backwards. So you as the landlord determine what your rents are going to be. If you're happy with it, you continue. If you're not happy with it, you simply stop and go back to what you were doing. The same thing with what people are saying about the government will change, so therefore everything else is going to change with that at the same time. And the thing is that who knows is probably the best answer for this. But the thing with it is that if you're on a shorter term lease, you hold the majority of the control, no different to having a fixed term tenancy in your property. So the emergency and transitional housing that we tend to deal with, like I say, the overall lease, 12 to 36 months. If you're in a 36-month lease term, you tend to put in those CPI increments moving forward. You have the 3 years of security, as opposed to the 1 year and then rent reviews from that. The tenants are rotated out every 8 to 12 weeks, generally speaking. Properties are inspected, depending on your lease, between every 14 and 30 days. So you're getting wraparound services with these tenants that are in the properties as well. But the thing to remember through all of this is that, yes, it's government funded, but no, it's not government control. You as the landlord, you still set the rent. You still set what your expectations are. If there's things that aren't right, you've got a bond from the housing provider that allows you to fix anything that's damaged at the end of the tenancy, which it shouldn't be. You get more regular inspections and updates on your property than what you would from a normal management perspective, where the property manager goes in every 90 days. So big takeaways. Number one, you've got three options, and that depends on your how risk averse you are or how much certainty you want. Number two, you still own the property in all three of these aspects. We're not handing properties over for government control. And number three, and especially with the social housing, if on the shorter term contracts, if government change and you go, hey, I want to go back to renting my house to someone that's not in the social services system, you can do that in 12 to 36 months, depending on the length of your contract. Or you can keep it in. So the cool thing with this, you've still got all the options, you've still got all the control, but the question to ask yourself, and what we're talking to a lot of clients about with this at the moment, is too, with the cost of living going up, And with everything else that's happening in the economy at the moment, who do you want paying your rent? Would you much rather have some certainty that you're going to have a government-funded rental program at an agreed price, whether your house is vacant or not, for 52 weeks of the year? Or potentially have people that are living in the house that are struggling to get by, and if it was me in that situation, would be putting food before rent any day of the week because you've got to survive. So things to be aware of: do you want certainty or do you not? As the landlord, you've still got the control. And if you've got any queries or questions about this or want to find out some more, click the link below and we'd be more than happy to have a chat. Enjoy the rest of your week.